What's going on, everybody? It's Murk back here for some more Draft League content, and today I'm bringing you my NPL Season 7 Week 7 game versus Cheeseboy628. Now, Cheese and I are having two very different seasons. He is having a very dominant, very good season, while I am not. Definitely been a very tough season for me, and I really have recognized that while I haven't been playing and prepping the most amazing in some cases, my team is really, really bad, and it makes my prep a lot harder to do, and it just makes my team matchups nearly impossible from the beginning. So that's just kind of a realization I have. Yes, it's a cop-out, kind of a reason why I'm losing. Obviously, I haven't played to my fullest in some of them, but in a lot of games, my team just hasn't been able to do it. Like, I'm still prepping and playing at the level that I believe is winnable, but my team just doesn't have the juice to win a lot of games. So that's just kind of a disclaimer. So might as well first mention that I did make one last team transaction, and that was I did two things. I first traded my Drapion to Blake in exchange for Excelgor, and then I dropped Frostlass for Sharpedo. Now, this gave me two Mons that I really wanted, which was two fast Mons. I have Excelgor now at base 145 speed, which replaces Frostlass as a Stealth Rocker, or as a Spiker, and it gives me that really, really fast Mon that I desperately needed. And I also got Sharpedo. Now, the reason I went for Sharpedo is because my team is much more offensive than it is defensive, and Drapion just didn't serve that much of a role on the team at this point. So I decided that getting Sharpedo, a fast offensive cleaner that has a lot of potential to do some serious breaking or sweeping in tandem with my main offensive Mons of Gardevoir, Zapdos, Lucario, this gives me another opening to potentially win some games. It's got a lot of cool tricks that it can pull off, and it's just a very spooky offensive Mon. And both these Mons had some pretty good promise in the matchup at hand. So like I said, we're taking on Cheese, who is 5-1, just absolutely killing everybody. He hasn't lost since week 1. And his team is Z Manaphy, Heatran, Sylveon, Amoonguss, Donphan, Mandibuzz, Stoutland, Raikou, Megatar, Swellow, and Gallade. So first of all, I love Cheese. He is a fantastic person. He makes really good content, and he drafted Mega Tyranitar, which is like the coolest Mon ever. So big shout outs to him. I make sure to go check out Cheese if you haven't already. Highly recommend it. And the second thing I need to say is that my matchup in this game is horrible. It took me a really, really long time to figure out what kind of team I could bring against his, because he has the Pokemon on his team to check everything on my team very, very well. There's not one thing on my team I found that has an overwhelmingly good matchup against him, which is a really horrifying discovery, because that makes games really hard to win, because normally you have one Mon that just has a fantastic matchup that's like unflappably good, but I don't have one Mon on my team that doesn't have some sort of drawback on it. So it made building for this game really, really tough, but nonetheless, I thought I built the best possible team I could for him at the time. And the thing that I thought was going to potentially win me the game was Lucario. So we got Kite, rocking Life Orb Justified, Close Combat, Agility, Iron Tail, and Swords Dance. So I'm rocking Dual Dance Lucario. I have enough speed on this set to outpace Adamant base 80s. And this may have been a mistake, as you'll see in the game, because he can run some other Mons on his team that could outpace me if they were plus speed. But essentially, what I wanted this thing was so that I could Agility up against him. I could Agility up against something and make it so that he couldn't revenge kill me with Pokemon like Sand Rush, Stoutland. So this set has a lot of offensive potential against his team, partially because he doesn't have anything that really switches into my dual stab of Close Combat Iron Tail. Obviously, it's going to be very difficult to set up against anything since his entire team has the potential to hit me very, very hard, but nonetheless, I can still use this thing as a big breaker so that I can potentially win with my Sharpedo or my Excelgor. And overall, it has a very, very good offensive matchup against my team. I felt that this was probably one of my best Mons against him. And I needed to run Adamant just because of the fact that he has Mons like Amoonguss and Sylveon that I want a one-shot or two-hit KO, and I really just need that Adamant so that if I set up an agility, I can one-shot things like the Raikou after rocks or a spike or something like that, and I just needed that extra little power from Adamant that I couldn't get from Jolly. Next, I've got my Excelgor, rocking the Insect Plate with Spikes, Encore, Bug Buzz, Focus Blast, running Modest with 24 Spadef and 232 Speed. The speed is here to catch a DD Tyranitar if he is just trying to outrun my Dugtrio. Now, obviously, that's been burning me a lot lately, assuming people speed creeps, but this also let me outrun a max speed Swellow, and the damage output off of Modest Excelgor is pretty nice against his team. The one thing that can take hits from me is the Sylveon, so if I can get rid of that, then I can potentially sweep his team with the combination of Bug Buzz and Focus Blast. With Insect Plate, I am 2-hit KOing his Swellow, which is an amazing threat against my team, since it outspeeds the majority of my Mons, and I don't have a good normal resist on my roster. So that's definitely a huge threat against me. However, this thing can two-shot it with Bug Buzz, and after rocks, I knock it out with a Focus Blast. So this thing is a good offensive check to a lot of his Mons. If he is like a DD Tar, I can Encore it into Dragon Dance, and then I can just spam Bug Buzz until it dies, which is cool. And overall, this thing is a pretty nice offensive option against his team, and getting up spikes against him is going to be very big, since he has a team that's really grounded and really weak to spikes. And one thing I might note is that Cheese always brings a very heavily offensive team. I've never seen him bring more than 2 walls to a game, so I really had to make a gamble that if he brought a team of full stall, I was going to lose this outright. I had to make a team that would have the potential to win against a more offensive team. So I really had to predict more or less the type of team style he was going to bring. Of course, I couldn't predict what 6 Mons he was going to bring specifically, because so many of his Mons had a very good matchup against me. But I had to just kind of go with my gut, knowing that he was not going to bring a very bulky team. If he brought a full super defensive team of like Fat Heatran, Wish Sylveon, Mandibuzz, and Amoonguss, I would lose. I would never be able to break that team. So that's one thing I had to look out for. But moving on, next I've got a cool little set with my Serena. I'm running Cheelonberry because he has 2 devastating, he has 2 really strong normal types in Swellow and Stoutland, and if I can take one of those hits with my Cheelonberry and then get rid of one of his big scary normal types, that's going to really help me out in the long run. I'm rocking High Jump Kick, Trop Kick, U-Turn, and Rapid Spin with 192 HP, 216 attack Adamant, 52 defense, and 48 speed. The speed is there just to catch like a no-speed Heatran, and it lets me avoid creep from a bulky Tyranitar if he wants to go that route. I've got enough bulk on this thing so that I can take things such as a Specs Boom Burst after a few rounds of rocks. I can take a Banded Return after a few rounds of rocks, and I can knock those things out with High Jump Kick after my own layer of hazards. So this thing is nice for that. Rapid Spin is good, and Serena overall is a pretty decent threat against his team. His one switch-in is Amoonguss, and if I can get rid of that, which I do pressure quite heavily with my team, then this turns into a fair offensive threat against him. So that's definitely something cool to note. Next, I've got my Mega Gardevoir with Psychic, Hyper Voice, Wish Protect. I'm rocking a very bulky spread, 248 HP, 84 Special Attack Modest, 120 Spadef, and 56 Speed. The speed is there to avoid creep from some of his Mons. And after that, I just needed a lot of special bulk so that I could take hits from Sylveon, because everything else on my team gets one-shotted by Sylveon, which is not good. I really need this thing to be able to help deal with the Sylveon if I don't know what kind of set it is, and it's overall one of my better wall breakers against him. Heatran can take my dual stab very nicely, but if I have hazards up against him, I can really pressure his team, and because I have Dugtrio, there's no way that he's going to be running leftovers. He's definitely going to be running some item. I expected mainly Shed Shell and potentially Shookaberry to deal with it. So overall, I just knew he wasn't going to be able to bring leftovers, meaning that even if he was able to switch into my Psychics, he's still taking about 25% or so, and then he's also taking rocks or potentially spikes or even both, and that really would let me threaten that, and my dual stab hits everything else really hard, so this is a big offensive threat against him. Next, I have probably my main win condition, and that is my Sharpedo, rocking Life Orb with Speed Boost, Protect, Crunch, Waterfall, and Destiny Bond with 20 HP, max attack adamant and then just a lot of speed to kind of hit the same creep that same benchmark Lucario is hitting, outspeeding those adamant base 80s. So if I'm at +2 speed, I can outrun a Stoutland in the sand, because I really don't expect him to run Jolly Stoutland just because it's a lot less powerful. But anyways, my dual stab on Sharpedo really threatens his team. He doesn't have a lot that switches into it, and if he does bring the more offensive team like I anticipate, this set is going to be very, very potent. Because I have Crunch and Waterfall, I could have had a third move on here like Poison Jab or Psychic Fangs or something to take down one of his bulkier mons, but I decided that Destiny Bond would be a really nice way to potentially take down 2 of his mons. And the idea behind this set was that Sharpedo comes in, knocks something out, and then he goes into his Sylveon or his Amoonguss to try and take a hit and knock me out. And from there, I can go for the Destiny Bond and remove one of those from the game, making my other offensive threats, mainly my Excelgor and Lucario, have a much better chance to win. So that was one of the hopes with this. Hopefully I could catch him off guard with the Destiny Bond and get rid of one of the mons that I didn't want to see, and overall help me give me a better shot at winning. And lastly, we've got my Dugtrio. I'm running Sash with a pretty similar set to last week: Reversal, Stealth Rock, EQ, Endure. I have Endure instead of Protect on this one just because it's possible I won't be able to get hazards off on my side, and I just wanted to be able to use Endure to get down to 1 HP so that I could hit something with a hard reversal, and also so that I can stall Sand turns potentially, because Sand is a big threat against my team. Overall, it's pretty straightforward. I'm outspeeding the Raikou with this set, and that's just about it. It's hopefully I can remove a threat like the Heatran and maybe the Tyranitar or even the Stoutland if I can reversal it. Hopefully this thing can just do a little bit of work to get rid of some of the things, to essentially just get rid of one of his mons and close it in my gap so that I can essentially the goal of this team, which sounds really cliche and ridiculous, is to just find a way to kill all 6 of his mons before he has the ability to do that to me. So that's why I'm running a really offensive team this week. And let's go ahead and just get into the battle. Now, Cheese brought a team that I really didn't... I was a little caught off guard by what he brought. So he brought a Amoonguss, Swellow, Heatran, Donphan, Raikou, and Sylveon. So I was really surprised not to see the Tyranitar Stoutland core. I thought that had a lot of good promise against my team, and he also didn't bring Manaphy, which is one of the biggest threats to my team. However, his team of 6 is all 6 mons are still very good against me, because like I said earlier, pretty much everything on his team has a good matchup against me, and the 2 mons, Swellow and Sylveon, are huge threats to my team since I don't have a good normal resist and I don't have a good fairy resist, partially because my main steel type is Lucario. My other one is a Matang, so yeah. Looking at the matchup though, late game, Lucario has a very good potential to win with agility. Same thing with Speed Boost Sharpedo. That definitely has a lot of potential to win. So I'm definitely looking to win with one of those 2 guys. So let's just go ahead and get into it. I'm going to lead off with my Gardevoir, kind of expecting him to try and counter lead something like my Dugtrio or my Excelgor. So I was kind of thinking that potentially the... I forget what I was trying to go for here, but maybe Swellow lead. If he led with Swellow, then I could get off a Hyper Voice turn 1, which would be really good for me. But he leads with Donphan, which is bad because if he's offensive, I take a ton from Earthquake. So I'm forced to go into my Serena. I take an Earthquake, and I'm just going to go right for the U-turn, predicting him to switch on out, as he does go into the Amoonguss. Now, the damage shows me here that he is physically defensive, and I only have one thing that can knock this thing out from here, and that is my Gardevoir. And I kind of felt like he's probably Posho Berry, or not Posho Berry, but Payapa Berry, but I still have to go for the Psychic right here because nothing else really wants to get put to sleep. So I'm going to go for the Psychic. He is Payapa Berry, and he is able to put my guard to sleep, so that's really bad for me. If I was something like Sub, then I would have been able to make a play there, but I didn't have that. So now I'm going to go hard into my Lucario, predicting him to Sludge Bomb, but he does go into his Sylveon here, which is fine because what I can do is drop an Iron Tail on his face, and unless he's max Fizz Def, he has no chance of living this hit, unless he's also Babiri Berry. But he doesn't have a good Iron Tail switch in unless he's really ballsy and wants to go hard into his Raikou or his Heatran, but I don't think he's going to do that, so I'm going to Iron Tail, as he is just going to go hard into his Amoonguss, and that is going to take a ton. It does 47%, and what I can do from here is just click Close Combat. even if I didn't get the defense drop, he still died to a CC, and he doesn't have a good switch into close combat. So down goes the Amoonguss, which is good, so now I can more freely spam close combat against him, but he does bring out the Swallow, which more or less means that I have to sack off a Mon, and because my Gardevoir is asleep, I don't think I'm going to have the opportunity to wake it up, so I'm just going to be forced to sack off my guard right here, which is unfortunate, as he does reveal that he is a physical Swallow, which I didn't anticipate, but it does make sense knowing that I have some good specially bulky Mons on my team like Gardevoir and Slowking. So he is able to go for the Brave Bird and knock me out. Now from this point, if I get my rocks up, I can knock out Swallow with a Bug Buzz from my Excelgor. So what I'm going to do is go into Dugtrio, and because he brought his Heatran in like this, I was thinking he was going to be Shed Shell, and that he'd have an easy switch into his Donphan right here. So I'm going to make... Yeah, it was a bad play. I'm going to go for my Stealth Rocks here, as he is going to stay in, and he's going to click Magma Storm and knock me out. Now, I'm not going to lie, Magma Storm totally slipped my mind, and I lose my Dugtrio without doing anything, and I'm going to go into my Lucario and just pick up my kill with close combat, and then he shows he's faster than me. So once again, not running enough speed on my Mons really bites me in the butt, as I am going to lose my Lucario, and after that, I'm in a very, very bad position, because I really would have liked to get rid of this Heatran. So now I'm going to go into my Sharpedo, which I probably should have done in the first place. And I'm going to go for the Waterfall, and there he shows it, Sash Heatran. I did not see this coming at all. This was not even close to being on my radar. And this is really going to hurt me, because it's going to force my Sharpedo to take that hit. And I'm at a range where I don't have enough Life Orb hits to be able to sweep through his team. And because he has Guts Swallow, it's very likely that he's going to be able to he's going to have Quick Attack, and that he'll be able to knock me out. So I'm in a bad position. However, he's going to go into his Sylveon right here, and I thought I lucked out, because if I'm able to Destiny Ball on the Sylveon right here, I can potentially sweep with my Excelgor, because after this, he doesn't have anything that really wants to take a Bug Buzz. So I thought this was my chance. I'm going to click Destiny Bond right here and try and get rid of this Sylveon right now. And then he shows Quick Attack, and my jaw kind of drops to the floor, and I realize at this point that I have been beaten. I'm going to just drop into Serena and go for the Trop Kick as he goes into Swallow. What am I saying? I believe I can take a hit from here since he's at -1, but I didn't bother running a calc since at this point I knew I lost. My only hope of winning was that if he let his Sylveon die, and then I could potentially sweep with Excelgor, but he was preserving his Sylveon very, very nicely. And he's going to actually go for the Quick Attack here, not knowing that Queenly Majesty exists. And that's going to allow me to get rid of his Swallow and have my Serena at higher health, but it really doesn't matter, because the combination of Sylveon Sylveon is going to be able to finish off the rest of my team. I'm going to Trop Kick. It's not going to be able to do enough damage, and he's just going to go for a Specs Hyper Voice, take me out. And my strongest move to hit this thing with is Bug Buzz, and that's not going to do anything to a Sylveon. So we are going to drop to it, and that's unfortunately going to be our 5th loss of the season. Now, this was a really disheartening one. Obviously, I screwed up with the Heatran plays. I didn't imagine that Sash Heatran was even a possible set. It did not cross my mind, and that really hurt me because I lost 2 of my Mons for absolutely nothing. So that was really my big downfall. But overall, I still did not have a good matchup in this game, and it was going to be hard to win anyways. This was probably one of my worst matchups that I've ever had. So yeah, it's just me complaining and whining about how this game was unwinnable, but it really has been a difficult season, and I did prep very hard for this one. I did make mistakes. I keep getting nipped in the butt because of my freaking speed creep, so don't expect me to be crazy with my speed creeps anymore the rest of the season. And from this point, it's kind of looking like we're in danger of relegation. So for my last 3 games, I'm really going to be scraping hard to avoid that. I don't know if playoffs are possible at this point. If I win out, I could make playoffs, but I don't know if I'll be able to win out just because my team isn't good enough to win games consecutively. And that's just the hard truth of it. This is a really bad team, and it's completely my fault for drafting it. I drafted a very poor team, and normally that's what wins me games is my drafting, and in this case, I finally drafted a team that was bad, and it's been my complete downfall. So this has been a rough season, but we got 3 more games, 3 more weeks to show what we're made of. So I'm going to try and come back strong in these last 3, maybe polish out a win or 2, avoid relegation, and then come back next season and show everybody what we're really made of. So it's been rough, though I still hope you enjoy it. If you did, drop a like, leave a comment, tell me what you thought, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.